Hey y'all, Mr. U here, coming at you with our first screencast lecture. Because I'm a video right now, I'm not going to be able to go back and repeat what I say. So make sure you're paying attention, you're quiet, and you're taking down the notes. So far we've talked about a few different inverse operations. The main ones that we've talked about are addition and subtraction, and multiplication and division. We know that they're inverse operations because they undo each other. If I give you $5 and then take $5 away from you, you're back at 0. They undid each other. The same way, if we multiply something by 5 and then divide it by 5, we end up with exactly what we started with. So we call these inverse operations. We've been talking lately about exponents. The inverse operation of squaring something, 5 squared, once again, means 5 times 5. The inverse operation of squaring something is called square rooting it. If we square 5, we get 25. If we take the square root of 25, we end up right back at 5. So, squaring and square rooting are inverse operations of each other. Now we're going to use this information to help us solve equations. If you remember back to all the equations that we've solved so far this year, we've been using inverse operations to try and undo the operations on x to get x by itself. Looking at this problem, I see that there's one operation on x. It's being squared. So I'm going to undo this using the inverse operation of squaring, which is square rooting. If I square root one side of the equation, I also have to square root the other side of the equation to keep it balanced. Now, the square root of x squared is simply x. The square root of 49, though, is a little bit more complicated. There's actually two answers. So I'm going to split off this equation into two pieces. The square root of 49 could either be positive 7 or negative 7, because 7 times 7 is 49, and negative 7 times negative 7 is also 49. Take the next 1 minute to try out this next problem on your own. It should be just like the one that we just solved. Alright, so if you're still stuck, I'm going to go back over this real quick. I see one operation happening to x, it's being squared, so I'm going to square root it to get x by itself. Anything I do to one side, I have to do to the other. I get x by itself on the left side of the equation. But since I'm square rooting 25, there's two possible answers. The square root of 25 can either be positive 5 or negative 5. So our two answers are positive 5 and negative 5. Let's try one with two operations now. X is being squared and multiplied by 5. We can undo both of these. The inverse operation of multiplying is dividing, so we're going to divide both sides by 5. 5x squared divided by 5 just gives us x squared. 260 divided by 5 is 52. You can check in your calculator if you'd like. Now we only have one operation on x left. It's being squared. We can undo this using the inverse operation, square root. Anything I do to one side, I also need to do to the other. The square root of x squared is x. But the square root of 52 is a little bit more complicated. It could either be positive 7.21 or it could be negative 7.21. We could check our answer by plugging either negative 7.21 or positive 7.21 back in for x. 7.21 squared and then multiplied by 5 will give us 260. Let's try one more example before you try some on your own. Here x is being squared and then added by 8. We need to get this x squared by itself so that we can square root it. The way we're going to undo positive 8 is by subtracting 8 from both sides. Because anything I do to one side, I also have to do to the other side of the equation. 8 minus 8 is 0, so all I'm left with is x squared on the left side. On the right side of the equation, 44 minus 8 gives me 36. There's still one operation happening to x, it's still being squared, so I need to undo that with the inverse operation, square root. Anything I do to one side, I also have to do to the other side of the equation. X squared, square rooted, is x, and 36, square rooted, has two possibilities. Could be positive 6, and could be negative 6, because 6 squared is 36, and negative 6 squared is also 36. Just like last time, we could check our answer by plugging our values for x, 6 and negative 6, back into x. 6 squared plus 8 is going to give us 44. Take the next 2 minutes to try this one out on your own. Last Headstart problem. Take 2 minutes. Try it on your own. Ready, set, go.